See, the problem is after doing a couple of these, people see them and they like them and they go, hey, can I get one of those too? I'd also like a copy of someone else's artwork. It's all well and good to start with. It's all fun and games. Oh, I'll just do a study / copy of, one of my favourite artists' popular artworks. One of the Lobo covers. And then someone likes it and maybe they buy it. And then someone else goes, hey, I'd like one too. So I knock another one out. And then someone else goes, hey. And it goes on and on. Which is, yeah, it's fine, but sooner or later, it's entirely likely that someone would actually notice and tell me to stop it because of laws. Because there are actually laws against copying and profiting off of said copies of other people's artwork. So maybe if I just keep my mouth shut about the fact that people are paying for them, and I just keep on the fact that they're studies, they're just, master studies, artistic studies in graphic art and painting and the application of a whole bunch of shit. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, Lobo's back, number 2, the popular, famous Lady Lobo with the big arm, and it's all swollen and muscly, and God, it's got her ass out and that thong. It's kind of a thong. It's a thong. Is that a thong? Does that count as a thong? I think that's a thong. Ink drawing on some paper. I very briefly showed the pad of paper that I took the paper from. Ink drawing, and then an underpainting of a very. It's a bit of red in there, but it's very, very, very dark, almost brown. Because I noticed on the actual painting of the printed piece of the Lobo cover by the Simon Bisley, there's not a great deal of red in it. Any redness comes from like some pinkish peach kind of spray on the outer parts added atop the flesh tones. But paying attention to the flesh tones themselves are this kind of like almost grey beige kind of colour. And so I figured the underpainting should be a bit of a more of a dull colour rather than a bright, a rich dark red. So I went with a much duller, darker kind of reddish brown, with the very desaturated, almost beige skin tone over that, and I think it's doing quite well. Onto, I think, the third layer of highlight now, which I was really happy with how this was coming out, especially there when I start putting it on the bum. Already it's gotten a lot of form and shape in these bits of flesh. One of the longest parts, there's 2 sort of longest parts of this painting. One of them was just that initial left arm, just getting all those little different little weird little shapes in tendons and veins and muscle parts, and then the other hardest, well, not hardest but more time consuming part is coming up. And now we're doing the spray, and I think in my head, looking at the cover, I assumed it was like a red spray, but paying more attention to it, I realised it was more of like an orangey peachy kind of colour, which I didn't have a spray can of on hand. I have a whole bunch of spray cans because, growing up in the streets, I'm a graph kid. I do have a good collection of tins of the spray paints, but not a peach orange kind of colour. So I improvised, watered down a colour that was sort of as close as I could get to that kind of orangey colour, and used a toothbrush to speckle flicky flick you know, you put your thumb in and you pull it back and let go, and it goes spray the paint all in the arms and the legs, and then painting some of the flesh tones over some of that spray. Some of it on the left arm, especially mixing in the orange colour, just so it sort of like has a bit more of a blend into the flesh tone. But for the most part, just straight up painting that previous almost grey flesh tone over the spray, tidying it up a little bit here and there. Painting in some of the scars, little red dashes here and there with little very faint highlights underneath. Just you can see even from here, just a little bit of like, not white, but the highlighted flesh colour just underneath the scar really gives it just that little bit of depth that it needs to look like it's an indentation in the skin. I don't know if maybe the speed with which I'm painting doesn't really allow it to be seen, but every now and again when I pull the actual cover in, I am putting paint directly onto the actual printed cover to see if I've got the colours mixed right. I wipe them off afterwards, and then, you know, for the most part it's all gone. But, you know, I don't really care about my covers being, you know, my comics being in pristine condition or whatever. And it's the best way to make sure I've got the paint the right colour is to put it on the fucking thing and see if it's the same colour, and if it is, then it works. So I did that for the jacket and the pants. The jacket was a little bit interesting, trying to get, again, all the creases and stuff in. For the most part, I figure I got it close enough. Then I start on the gloves, and then I realise there's too many specks of the orange paint on the black of the gloves and tights and things. So I get the black out and start covering those up. There's quite a bit of blacking out needing to be done on this, but I give up that there and figure that'll do for now. Then get back to using this grey-blue kind of green colour, which it was. It's sort of a black and a white with a couple of blues and a turquoise in it. So it's not quite a grey, not quite a blue, but it's like a weird grey teal kind of colour in there. The flesh is, I think, a little bit of red and like crimson red, yellow ochre and white, and quite a bit of raw umber, and maybe just a touch of black just to really dull it down. Lots of white to like lighten it up, of course. And then the hair was the other very time consuming part that just took forever. I'm 99% sure when Simon Bisley painted this, he did a bunch of squiggly lines with his ink for the initial drawing, and then just painted in more or less random strokes in the right directions to make it look like hair. But I'm sure he wasn't planning out every single one of these little brush strokes used for the hair. But if I'm going to copy it and try to make it look like the cover, I've got to try to emulate his almost random brush strokes intentionally. So that's quite difficult. Trying to figure out, like, okay, there's 3 in this direction, 4 in that, and then a couple under here, and then this one curves. It was painstaking is what it was. But as you see, once I start getting the highlights on them, it's really effective. As soon as the highlights go onto the hair, it sort of really does take form. Almost surprising to myself, actually, what that was. Again, putting the paint directly onto the cover to see if I've got the blue correct. There is some green, some like greeny turquoise in there, because it's not quite a blue. It is a little bit, again, of a teal kind of aqua sort of blue kind of sort of. So I get all that in there, and this is one of the funnest parts, I think, is blocking out the shapes, especially because you've got the underpainting making the edges a bit messy, which, you know, I could have tidied up initially when I put them down, but it makes for like a fun thing to see once you get all the layers in, and then you start covering up the messy parts, and really pulling the shapes out and like defining the image. It looks really, really cool. Fill in all of this shit, and then it's practically done. Look at that. I'm really, really happy with it at this stage. And looking at that left arm, I really like that left arm, how it looks without the black outlines and things and shadows. It's almost a shame that I fucking ruined it by putting the black lines and stuff in there. But again, I'm copying an existing piece of artwork, so it's got to look like the existing piece of artwork, including the elbow penis, which is a weird thing. I do wonder if that was intentional. I shouldn't imagine it was, but then at the same time, maybe it was. And by which I mean that bit of his elbow, his/her elbow, looks like a bell end, which is quite funny, isn't it? Penises are funny, so that's cool. Shadows. This was, I guess, another one of the time-consuming parts, but less difficult, I guess, because I didn't have to figure anything out. All I had to do when putting in these outlines was literally put in the outlines. Like the hair, I had to figure stuff out and where to put things. Same with the arm and a bit with the jacket. But with this, I've literally just got to outline stuff and put shadows in. You know, for the veins, you only sort of put the outline on the underneath and just in the corners where like two veins cross paths. And then it sort of creates the illusion of light and shadow and a vein popping out from the flesh rather than outlining the vein entirely. But yeah, now that the arm does have the shadows and everything on there, I'm pretty happy with how it looks overall. I was really happy with this piece overall. I put it off. I put off painting it for a while. I meant to do it a lot earlier than I had done, but it was just knowing that I'm going to be recording it and filming it and talking about it. It does make me worry that, like, what if I fuck it up? Because there's all the flesh and there's a lot of details, a lot more than the last couple of pieces I painted. So yeah, I was a bit worried, but I think overall I did all right. I did all right. I was really, really happy with it. I'm really, really proud of this painting. Of course, it's not a perfect one-to-one copy, but you know, the total painting time was about 3 hours, give or take. So considering that, I mean, it's fucking, you know, what else could you really fucking ask for? The white highlights, finishing it off. Always the last little bit, just the last little shiny shines. Oh, and the nails, I forgot to add those in. And that's the fucking thing. Done. Blammo. The full video of that, the full 3 hour unedited video, is available at patreon.com/ewan. It's only $1 a month to sign up if you fucking want to. And then you can watch me paint it in real time. You can watch me paint for 3 entire hours and struggle to find things to talk about during that time. So, you know, go do that.